The press photographers beside the fire engine at the edge of the runway are in a good position to photograph the takeoff and landing. The aircraft will now do a touch and go, and the helicopter is already airborne to get air-to-air shots of the climb out. Today is the major press day, and here in number 5 hangar, preparations are in hand. It is also the day when the Iolar will receive its new certificate of airworthiness.
And I know, for the benefit of our own staff who are gathered here in hangar number 5, let me explain who we have here. We have the British press from Bristol and from London, with the Irish press from Dublin. We're here essentially for a christening party. It is my pleasure as the Chief Press Officer for Aer Lingus to extend a Céad Míle Fáilte to all of you. To tell you really the story of how this airplane came back to life. Michael McGovern is his name, and he is a man that has been associated with this airport and Aer Lingus for close on 40 years and more. Under his jurisdiction, the maintenance staff and the standards that you're going to see today were really built up. He's a man who can look back with a great deal of pride to the standards which he set and which are being fulfilled as we celebrate his 50th birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael McGovern, General Manager of Maintenance and Engineering for Aer Lingus.
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me introduce one of the men who was very closely associated with this whole project. On the left, Johnny Malloy. And on the other side here, Brendan O'Donoghue from the Irish Army Air Corps, who came along with great expertise that I'll speak about later to help us. Brendan. Also, Joe Humphreys, who is the Chief Aeronautical Inspector in our Department of Communication, which is the equivalent of the FAA and CAA in other countries. Joe is here today, hopefully to present us with a C of A for the aircraft in due course. Joe. And Captain J.J. Sullivan, who lent us great help and encouragement to us during the whole course of this particular operation. Captain Sullivan. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the de Havilland Dragon was the basis for a number of DH-84 airliners. Officially described as an 8-seat biplane, it first flew on the 24th of November 1932. Now, the Dragon in front of you was built in 1936, and the manufacturer's number was 105. Now, it had its first test flight on the 18th of April 1936, and the pilot was none other than the late Geoffrey de Havilland. I have the original test flight information in my possession. The registration of the aircraft then was GAE-CSZ. Now, I mention these facts just to stress what Bill Maxwell has said, that this DH-84 Dragon is a sister ship of the aircraft used by Aer Lingus on the first flight from Baldonnel to Bristol on the 27th of May 1936. Over 200 aircraft of this type were built, 115 in the United Kingdom and the balance in Australia. Now, the DH Gypsy engine fitted had a remarkable reliability record, and as most of you know, was widely used in aircraft that were involved in the various air races of the 30s and 40s, such as the King's Cup and other record-breaking flights. De Havillands at the time boasted that they made the aircraft from the nose to the tail, which is something I think that many other manufacturers just simply cannot claim. Aer Lingus in its early days operated the DH Dragon, the 84, as I have said, the 89 Rapide, and later the 4-engine DH-86. Now, the Dragon owes its existence to a now almost forgotten airline, Hillman Airways. It was the owner of that airline, Mr. Hillman, who suggested to the chief designer of de Havilland's that he should produce a twin-engined aircraft to operate a cut-price service to Paris. It is worth noting that when the aircraft first flew, petrol used cost 1 shilling and 7pence halfpenny a gallon, or was purchased by a man called Jim Cleary of Mullingar in 1949 from its owners in the United Kingdom, the Wiltshire School of Flying. It was sold to Captain Darby Kennedy, a former chief pilot of Aer Lingus and owner of Western Airways, and in the early 50s was flown by him until 1959, transporting passengers and for pleasure flights. In 1967, the aircraft, at the suggestion of the Aer Lingus press office, was purchased by Aer Lingus and was flown to Dublin Airport. It was stored for some time in our hangars, suspended from the roof of number 2 and number 1 hangar from time to time, and later it was transferred to a permanent exhibition in the Dublin Airport Terminal building. When the first Aer Lingus 747 aircraft was delivered in May 1971, the Dragon was used to meet the aircraft after landing and escorted to its parking spot on the apron at Dublin Airport. The idea of restoring the aircraft to a serviceable state and flying it on the 50th anniversary of our first flight originated from John Malloy of our Quality Assurance Department. Johnny, I have already introduced them to you, after some discreet examination of the aircraft, formed the view that it could be restored. He spoke to Captain J.J. Sullivan about it, regarding the possibility of flying it and the willingness of people to fly it, and he received every encouragement. Following some consultation then with Mr. Joe Humphreys, whom I have told you is the Chief Inspector of our Regulatory Authority, he had the necessary competence to call the Chairman of our 50th Anniversary Committee, Micheál O'Riordan, and put the suggestion to him. Now the idea met with approval, and Johnny personally undertook the task of restoring the aircraft and producing it on time for May 27. As you can see, he has met his target comfortably. The wood and fabric construction of the DH-84 Dragon presented many inspection and restoration problems. Expert help was available from many people, including some from the Irish Army Air Corps. Brendan O'Donoghue's help in particular was sought. He had great expertise in the repair of aircraft structures made of wood. The task of restoring the Dragon then commenced in this hangar, and Johnny will give you later on the fine details of any of the technical problems you are interested in. Suffice to say that everything that was needed was located in different parts of the world. Engine parts, props, tyres with the courtesy of Goodyear, instruments and aircraft parts, materials for recovering the wings, fuselage and so on. Now many people from our various workshops contributed to the success of this project. Others outside Aer Lingus, such as Darby Kennedy and Joe Humphreys, helped us locate parts and documentation. And today we have an aircraft in excellent shape, fit to fly 50 years after its first test flight, and operationally delivering the same performance as it achieved on that test flight. I see no reason, with good preservation, why this aircraft should not perform equally well 50 years from now. I cannot overstate the dedication of the staff responsible for this project. Johnny Malloy, in addition to working as an inspector in the Aer Lingus Quality Assurance Department, is a small aircraft enthusiast. He is the owner of a private aircraft and has significant experience as a private pilot. Captain J.J. Sullivan, one of our senior 747 captains, is also a small aircraft enthusiast and a private aircraft owner. Together they made a great team to lead this project, and many others, like Brendan O'Donoghue that I mentioned, and the shop specialists, worked long hours in their spare time to restore this wonderful aircraft in mint condition. The DH-84 has been well covered by the technical press since its early days. Flight magazine, for example, published a very interesting article in its December 22 issue in 1932. In the aeroplane in October 1935, another interesting article, again in Air International in March 84, and many other publications have from time to time covered this magnificent aircraft. A study of such articles clearly shows that the Dragon, in its time, was well above average in structural and aerodynamic efficiency and very cost effective. The fact that we have one of these aircraft now in a fully restored operational condition, original documentation, and people of undoubted technical skill in the construction, repair and restoration techniques applicable to such aircraft should be of immense value to aeronautical students studying the evolution of modern transport aircraft. Johnny Malloy, J.J. Sullivan, Brendan O'Donoghue, and many others like Dermot Goldsberry, Jim Price, Larry Bourne, John O'Connor, Finney Talbot, Alex Phillips and Joe Byrne, just to mention a few of the people from the shops, have, I believe, made a unique contribution to aviation on behalf of Aer Lingus, and I wish to thank them and the many others involved to thank them group since our first operation in 1936. Hopefully, as I mentioned a few moments ago, Mr. Joe Humphreys, Chief Aeronautical Inspector of the Department of Communication, will now deem it fit to present to us the Certificate of Airworthiness for this aircraft. And given that Johnny Malloy says the aircraft is serviceable and the documentation is all correct, hopefully Captain J.J. Sullivan will then be able to perform the rest of it.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. I think that was a very extensive count of the DH-84, and as he said, afterwards the press will have the service of the people on this panel to give you any further information which you may require. If I may explain now, what we propose to do is this, for the benefit of the press, is we will have the formal presentation of the certificate in front of the aircraft. Then we will have a photo call for anyone who wants to take photographs there. Then the captain will take out the aircraft. He's going to do a takeoff, turn off to the right, do a circle, and come back over the 747. By an odd coincidence and a happy coincidence, we happen to have a 747 just available this morning. So that is the plan, and while the captain is doing the circuit, we will be here and Johnny will be here to answer your questions, anyone who wants to talk to him in detail on how it was all done and any other aspect you want to talk about. So I think now, if we get to move ahead, if I will ask Joe Humphreys to come down with Johnny Malloy in front of the aircraft, we can start with the photography. Thank you very much.
You want to find it in? We'll have to ball it into the wrong. Oh, I know. That's lovely. You want to let go? Over this way, okay? That's lovely.
Great, thank you. Sorry, John. Can you hold him in, please?
Okay, sorry, Bernie. Can you come in out of there, please? It has to Bernie in and then.
One hand hold it, isn't it? That's nice. I had it.
Okay, give me a hand, Bernie.
That's grand.
Sorry, excuse me.
Thank you very much.
You have seen members of the restoration team performing many and varied tasks, and today, as they stand in front of the restored aircraft, they have every right to feel a sense of pride and satisfaction. As part of its 50th anniversary, Aer Lingus held an exhibition in the RDS. And as you can see here, the Iolar was the star of the show. When the Iolar returned to Dublin Airport from the RDS and the wings were refitted, I was delighted to be offered a flight in the aircraft on the required air test. The morning of the planned flight was windy, and I am here in number 5 hangar with my fingers crossed, hoping the winds will abate so the flight can proceed. We are now ready to go from left Johnny Malloy, Captain Roger Kennedy, and yours truly, Derry McMahon. As we taxi out, we get a good view of the struts and wires on the wings. Climbing out after takeoff from Dublin Airport. We are now flying over the cornfields of northwest Dublin. And over the Grand Canal as we head for Western Airfield. A contented man, if ever I saw one. The rear seat passenger is Dick Schaefer, who was the Boeing representative with Aer Lingus at the time of the restoration. Dick kept a photographic record of all the work and presented it to the Boeing Museum in Seattle. Captain Kennedy checking the instrumentation on number 2 engine cowling. This is one of the large windows that offered early Aer Lingus passengers an excellent panoramic view of the countryside. This would certainly have been considered premier class travel in the 1930s. We are now making our way back for our approach and landing at Dublin Airport. And as we taxi in after a pleasant and most enjoyable flight, I feel privileged to have flown on this historic aircraft.